This episode of Policing Matters is brought to you by Lexipol, the experts in policy, training, wellness support, and grants assistance for first responders and government leaders. To learn more, visit lexipol.com. That's LEXIPOL.com. Hey, welcome back to Policing Matters on policeone.com. I'm your host, Jim Dudley. And of course, I hope you know that you can catch us on the Police One YouTube channel, and you can see me and today's guest. Well, a lot of things happening across the world of law enforcement and public safety since the death of George Floyd in 2020. The largest protest in U.S. history has happened there in Minneapolis, resulting in the erosion of community trust in law enforcement. And we know how valuable that can be, particularly when it comes to our youth. And after connecting with distraught students who expressed confusion and fear after several organized protests in the summer of 2020, then Fremont Captain Sean Washington recognized the youth's voices needed to be heard. He later became chief in fall of 2021, and he made it one of his priorities to listen, resulting in the establishment of the Chief's Youth Advisory Board, enabling a direct line of transparent communication between Fremont youth and the Fremont Police Department. Well, I've listed your extensive background in our show notes, Chief Sean Washington. Welcome to Policing Matters.
Well, thank you. It is my absolute pleasure to be here.
Yeah, for me, right across the bay, it's been great seeing some of the things that you're doing and implementing there at Fremont PD. And most of our listeners know about citizens advisory boards, and they're made up of community people to hear and collaborate about an agency's priorities, put an ear to the ground on what's happening out into the communities. You started this program with a twist. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so really this program came about, like you mentioned, after George Floyd and all the protests that we saw throughout the country, and more specifically here in Fremont. This youth advisory board was really a result of that. What we found is that the vast makeup of the protests that we had here in the city of Fremont were made up of young people, and they had a lot of questions, concerns. And to be quite frankly, they had a lot of misinformation on law enforcement as well. And so really, I thought that was the reason we needed to have something like this, because I, as the police chief, did not have that forum to hear some of those viewpoints.
Yeah, and I notice I've been through your website. It's great. You list all the things that are happening there, and school resource officers seem to be a big part of the program there. They're a large component. What are you hearing from your school resource officers?
Yeah, they actually help with the program. They help identify the young people who are going to be a part of this board. So they help with the selection process. They think it's great. We have a fantastic SRO unit, school resource officers. I know I'm biased, but they are some of the best around. In fact, the National Association of School Resource Officers last year recognized our SRO program as a model agency. And so they're excited about it because it just gives us more perspective, more insight on what our young people are thinking. So they are in full support of this youth advisory board.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, they are, right there, boots on the ground. And trust is huge in the community, and especially with our youth. Are you making impact beyond the 10 youth who sit on the board? Is it rippling through all the schools in your district?
Yes, I think so. I mean, it actually, we didn't initially get a large response when we advertised the Youth Advisory Board, but since now that it's established, we have an overwhelming response. We don't have room for all of the kids that want to be involved in it. So I think we're starting to engage in those conversations, those key conversations that I want to hear. These are our future leaders, whether we want to admit it or not. Our young people will be taking care of us. These will be our future leaders and doctors and law enforcement professionals. And so I think it's engaging in that dialogue and getting that real-time feedback or perspective that is useful for me as a chief as we move forward. So I do think that this, along with many other programs that we have, are make a difference. I think it makes a huge difference.
Sure. And I've been a captain with an agency where we had 10 district stations, and we had our community advisory boards, and it was important for me not just to cherry pick the police, just the people who already loved us, but really to get some of the critics on board as well. Is that part of your strategy in gathering youth for the youth advisory board, that you don't just grab all the ones raising their hands? Maybe you get the ones frowning off to the side as well?
Yes, in fact, one of our recent meetings, I challenged the group to give me some feedback and perspective that I may not like. I want to hear those thoughts. The whole makeup of the group is intended just to do that. If I wanted to just have the perspective of young people that agreed or went along with everything that policing was doing or was about, then there would be no need for this particular youth advisory board. It helps me predict some of the thoughts and concerns within our community if we really hear those perspectives from our young people that may not agree with some of the policies or actions of the police department. And we use it as an opportunity to get educated both ways. So although I benefit from having the dialogue and engaging with our young people, I truly believe they do as well. One of our first meetings, we talked about gun violence and those type of things. They had some concern about school violence and those type of things. And we had a conversation about the tools we use and the why, and that we actually do not have a tank, right? We have an armored vehicle, those type of things, and why we use drones and those type of things. So hearing those concerns on the front end will help me anticipate how to better communicate with our community, especially our young people, when we have to make a policy or purchase some equipment to keep our community safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've seen since even before 2020, we heard some school boards and school districts calling for no campus police at all. Ironically, just this week in Texas, they're calling, the legislature there is calling for mandatory armed police on all campuses. Some advisory boards had called for no police at all, or disarmed police. Have you had any sort of challenges like that? How'd you handle it?
Yeah, not yet. We haven't run across that. We actually, at our last meeting, I asked for some perspective on what their thoughts were on SROs in schools, and the entire group said that they support police officers on campus. And these are the youth advisory board. My community advisory board, the adults, we have conversations about this all the time, and they certainly are very supportive of police officers being on campus. So our community as a whole is really supportive of SROs and understands the value that they bring. It's just not being a law enforcement, but it's officer, but it's a mentor. They're mentors. They offer guidance, a way to keep juveniles actually out of the juvenile justice system with diversion and things of that nature. So our community, sure, there are some folks who don't want to have SROs on campus, but they really are the minority in Fremont. The overwhelming majority of our community appreciate what the SROs do, and that includes our young people.
Sure. Well, I'd like to get deeper into that, into the details of the program. I'd like to hear more about the recommendations that you're hearing as well. But first, I'd like to take a moment and thank our sponsor. Lexipol empowers first responders and public servants to best meet the needs of their residents safely and responsibly. Serving more than 2 million public safety and government professionals in over 8,000 agencies and municipalities, Lexipol offers a range of solutions that includes policies, training, behavioral health resources, news and analysis, and grant assistance services for law enforcement, fire and rescue, EMS, local government, and other agencies dedicated to public safety. To learn more, visit lexipol.com. That's LEXIPOL.com. And we're back, and I'm speaking with Fremont Police Chief Sean Washington and talking about the Chief's Youth Advisory Board there. Chief, what kinds of things have led to policy adjustments or changes that come from the Youth Advisory Board? Are you taking their recommendations and putting them into play?
Yeah, so the Youth Advisory Board for Fremont is still relatively new. In fact, we just had our second meeting. So there hasn't been a lot of adjustments to policies or considerations and those type of things. So some of the things that we've been talking about in our recent meetings was, like I mentioned, school safety, particularly firearms. These kids are seeing what's happening around the country, and they have some real concerns and want to know what the police department is doing. In fact, I recently put out a community message or a letter to the community on gun violence, and I consulted the Youth Advisory Board to get their thoughts. What type of information would you like to see in that message? And they talked about training. They talked about the use of the SROs and those type of things. So they actually had a role in how I crafted that message to the community. So that's probably the closest thing that we've come to as far as any type of adjustments or policies and those type of things. Safety seems to be on the mind of the young people right now, based on what we're seeing around the country, as well as a desire to enhance police student relationships. Like, they really are interested in that. How do we build that relationship? And they certainly have a role in that. So, those are some of the things that we've talked about, at least in the first two meetings, and I'm sure there's going to be more to come.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly there are a lot of studies out there that say that Generation Z learns a lot and gets their news and communicates through social media. Do you plan on using social media as part of your strategy of getting news and information out to your youth community?
Yeah, of course. I'm I don't have a big social media profile. I like communication through letters and those type of things, but I recognize that our young people, that is the way they communicate, right? That's the way we stay up to date, and they stay up to date on information. So we embrace that as our department. We use all social media platforms to communicate not only with our community, but our young people as well. So we will continue to do that. And do more with that as well. I'm actually one of the holdouts. My staff soon will be giving me a couple of social media profiles and teaching me how to use that to better communicate with with the generations now who that is their primary form of communication. So absolutely, we embrace it.
Yeah, that's great. And then there's the rest of the troops. What are you hearing? Any grumblings from the troops about a youth advisory board? Oh, great. Now what? We're going to be directed by teenagers from the community, or are they embracing it as well?
Yes, the troops have been great. They're embracing it. It's important to understand the community advisory board as well as a youth advisory board. They're just that. We engage in conversation. So the value that we and the department get out of these advisory boards is hearing the perspective, representatives from the community. And so that will help kind of guide how we communicate to our community, how we write our policies and things of that nature. But really, the purpose is to provide perspective for me as I make decisions. And so we have a great relationship with our community, both our young people and our more experienced folks in the community. And I've really heard no pushback or no concern from our officers about having this opportunity. In fact, we have a lot of things planned where we're going to introduce members of our youth advisory board to our troops to get that engagement. They're also going to be participatory in our community connections program, which all of our patrol officers do. And that's really identifying a problem in their assigned area and trying to come up with solutions. So the Youth Advisory Board is going to help with that as well. They've yet to identify an issue, but they'll work with our police officers to help mitigate whatever concern or issue might be present in a particular area. So it'll be fun. We'll make it fun and interactive, and I'm sure our officers will appreciate it. They may not admit it, but they love the kids. They love that interaction and that attention. So,
well, that's great. Well, so it sounds like through the community projects, you're introducing them to concepts like SARA and SEPTED.
100%. And so it's really going to come from them. I'm not going to direct what type of issue they want to resolve, but like you said, those concepts have been proven over the decades, and I'm excited about hearing more about what they want to try to accomplish.
Awesome. Hey, so it may be too early to tell, but do you see this leading into recruiting for the agency itself?
So knowing that there's going to be other agencies out there listening to this, I hate to reveal the secret, but that was something that I suspected would happen, and it's already happening after 2 meetings. I've had 2 17-year-olds who one of our first meetings was to explain kind of all of the opportunities that are present in a police department. As you know, it's sworn, professional, all sorts of positions that make up a police department. And we had 3 17-year-olds that they're ready to apply today. They're just not old enough. And so, yeah, it is a way for us to get to our young people early and kind of keep them on the hook, keep them interested in the profession and let them know that even though they may go off to college, when they come back, they have a home. Mm-hmm. And so we think that that's going to have long lasting impacts to recruiting people from the area who have an interest in Fremont. And we think that's going to make us very competitive with a lot of our surrounding agencies. We may not see it this year, but 3, 4, 5 years down the road, when we've had, several groups of these young people go through, I think they're going to come back and really try to make a career here in Fremont.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's smart. And yeah, if you had a paid cadet program, you can really keep those 17-year-olds engaged until they're ready. You are the lead on the Youth Advisory Board concept. What advice or cautionary tale would you have for any other agency interested in starting their own Youth Advisory Board?
I guess I would say just communicate very clear what your objective is. And it can be many things all at once, like we talked about, recruiting. It could be getting perspectives of our young people. It could be more community engagement. All of those things can be true. But really communicating what the purpose is to your staff, because I'm sure you recognize that if you don't have that communication and that engagement, your staff may not support it, and it may not be successful because of that. So those are the internal stakeholders, having those conversations ahead of time, and then getting like the council members and the mayor and the city manager excited about it as well is going to be key, because, obviously the program is not free. It's going to cost a little bit of money, but not a lot. I think it's this first year, it's going to be maybe $5,000 worth of T-shirts and supplies and pizza and those type of things. It's not a lot, and we're going to get a lot on for the return of our investment. But that would be it. And then stay engaged. Like it is titled the Chiefs Advisory Board for a reason, meaning that I am going to take time out and I'm going to make time to engage with these young people, whether that's every month or every other month or whatever. Whenever our meetings are scheduled, I have to make time to hear the perspectives of these young folks. So making sure it stays as a priority is going to be key as well.
Yeah. Well, Chief, I got to hand it to you. You are on the right track. We often talk in academia, in criminal justice, about Sir Robert Peel. And of course, one of his main tenets is building trust in the community through communication. And you're doing that. And, you're bridging the gap rather than just ignoring the problem and waiting for it to fester. So Good on you for what you're doing there with your youth advisory board. And we're going to put the link to the Fremont Police Department and the Chiefs Advisory Board, Chiefs Youth Advisory Board. And our listeners can also check out your background and your way up through the agency there.
Fantastic. I appreciate
Thanks for taking time with us today and telling us about the program. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, listeners, if you are interested, check out the show notes. They're listed below. You can click on the link and hear more about Fremont PD's Youth Advisory Board, the Chiefs Youth Advisory Board, and see on their website also what Chief Sean Washington is doing there in Fremont. Good stuff happening there. All right. Drop me a line. Let me know what you think. I am at policingmatters@policeone.com. policingmatters@policeone.com. All right, stay safe and hope to chat again with you real soon. Take good care.